Hello everyone. I have recorded this video 4 times and I intend that this time that it actually goes through and it works out. Today I'm going to talk about revision and how it actually works. When I first learned about revision and started getting into it, you know, the way that I understood it, and I see that a lot of people understood it as, you know, something that went through in my past, I think about it differently and it changes. Yes, that is revision, but revision is actually happening all the time. And I say revision is happening all the time because life is always switching based on who you're being at that moment. So everything is literally switching and revising towards who you're being. If you're, and I know this to be fact because there was a point where I really wanted to be with this one guy. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And I finally got over it. And I was like, and I started like boosting myself up. I'm like, you know what? Like, you know, like who wouldn't want me? Like, you know what? I'm going to find somebody and then they're going to see me and they're going to know I'm the one right from the jump. And like, I started really bigging myself up, which I never really kind of did before. I was always using my validation through relationships. And for the first time ever, I bigged myself up and I stayed there. And what happened was, in the days after that to come, was I got this really grand feeling of peace that came over me, and I met someone else that was like 10 times better. And even though I did come in contact with the other person that I wanted, it didn't feel the same. I was completely happy with my new person. But the moment that I started seeing myself differently, my life literally revised. And reflected how I started feeling about myself. So revision is always happening. Another example. I think this is kind of like the same XSP. I guess you could say that. I would think I'll never want him back, so it's okay to call him that. So the XSP. Every time that and I'm gonna get a little vulnerable here. I'm not gonna lie. I was like wanting this guy and chasing this guy and for so long, and you know, doing all types of things at tarot readings, and that whole time that I was doing that, he was not wanting me, thinking about me, anything, because life was revising itself around who I was being. I was wanting the desire more than wanting peace and fulfillment within myself. So my world around me had to show me that I was not chosen, because the things that I was doing was just giving off this signal of like not loving who I'm being. And you know, the source energy is always working with you. There's a greater source, and then there's source that's you, right? So it's like, when I say the greater source, I mean the power that is working with you to make your experiences happen. Whether it's from your soul, whether it's, I don't know where it's coming from exactly. But whatever greater source is out there, it's orchestrating from what we're putting out mentally. So you're the source, and then there's another source that's working with you to reflect back your experiences. So life is always revising all the time. So it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to revise this one little thing. And no, your circumstances are literally revising as you think and as you speak all the time. So revision is constantly happening. Revision is deeper than what a lot of people think and know. But what I've noticed that is circumstances are always shifting based on who you are. And once you become way more aware of that even more, you'll start to see things show up that you actually want, because now you got control of your mind and things like that. So understand that revision is always happening, and life is revising as you think and speak all the time. Circumstances are just waiting for you all the time. And I know that it's real, and I know that it's true because I see it in my own circumstances, and I see it in my own life and my own experiences and my clients as well. So understanding that you're that powerful, and life is a virtual reality, real life game simulation where, you know how we put on a VR headset and then we're seeing things with our eyes, you know, as a screen, and we're selecting things and we're experiencing that in the VR headset. That's exactly how it is in life. But, you know, we bleed and things like that, and we, you know, can possibly, you know, get hurt or whatever. Like, I don't want to put that out there, but I'm just trying to let you know the difference between a game and real life, right? So, but it's the same thing in a sense of what you put in a mental screen will come out as an experience for you to experience, just like a virtual reality, except that this is a real life virtual reality. And it's always revising to who you are being. So that's why it's very important when we as coaches say, who are you being? Who are you being? Because that's, your circumstances are shifting itself around that. You know, it's, your circumstances are always adapting to who you're being, bottom line. If you feel that life is hard, or love is hard, or money is hard to come by, your circumstances are going to adapt to that, because that's what you said, you know? So it's always, revision is just not about revising on that one thing. It's always changing and revising on who you're being. Your past is literally changing on by who you're being now. And you might not realize it, but your past is always determined by your present. And your present creates the trajectory unto the future. So, for example, if you are someone that has always been hurt in relationships, and you constantly hold on to the past about how you've been hurt, then you are that person today, and you will most likely replicate the same situations that you have created before, because you haven't revised who you were. You stood as the person and keep identifying as your past and the person who's hurt. Now, for example, someone who has been hurt before, but they say, no, actually, I decide that I've always been chosen and I've always been the one. What happens is the memories of the hurt experiences will begin to fade away. It's not to say that they're not there, but they begin to fade away until you start getting into a state of feeling like you're the person who gets hurt. Then those memories will begin to resurface. But if you were someone who were hurt, and then you start dominantly thinking about yourself as someone who has it all, What happens is, like I said, the past hurt memories begin to dissipate. You start to remember yourself as always being chosen. And for example, say like if someone left you for a 3P and you start seeing yourself as like being the one being chosen, all of a sudden they start making excuses of why they had to leave the 3P. Like, oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. I never even really liked her. And you're like, what? I just saw you hugging up with her in a picture in an arcade. And they're like, well, I never really liked her. That's because life revised itself, past, present, and future, to who you're being now. So the past changed to the point where that person is now the version of that didn't even like the 3P. The present version of you feels good about themselves. And now the future, if you keep it up, you're going to have the experience that you want to have with that person, because now you're always in the present of being chosen. You get what I mean? So who you are being is literally revising your past, present, and your future. And that may be a kind of hard to grasp, especially if you're just understanding who you are and understanding how you manifest. But if you've kind of been watching videos for a while and kind of understanding this, you're kind of like really understanding that revision is happening all the time based on who you're being now. And that is just the gist of it all. That is just the gist of it all, pretty much. That's why sometimes when you change your mind about things, you know, people return because the past changed. You've always been chosen, so they have to choose you in this present moment and the future if you keep being that way. And then even another example, say like you always been hurt and then you change who you are today and you're like, you know what, no, I'm always chosen, and you got your person back, you got your SP back, and all of a sudden you start thinking that you're not chosen and thinking that things can go wrong. Guess what happens? Life revises itself again to you not being chosen. Then you might notice your SP getting distant, you might notice them not spending time with you as much, them ignoring you. And now those past memories resurface, and that's who you become again in the present moment. You see, everything takes place in the brain. The brain is the computer system. So everything you're telling it is creating your past, present, or future. And I intend that, you know, you got a way better understanding of how revision really works. It's not just one thing. You're literally revising all the time on who you're being. And I think that getting a better understanding of that makes this whole thing a little bit more fun, because it's it's amazing after a while. I don't know if I finished my example I was saying earlier, but I think I did. But just to reiterate, say you were a person that was never chosen. Then you finally got in your power, and then you're like, I'm always chosen. And then your SP comes back, everything is great, and then you lose yourself. I'm not chosen. Oh yeah, that I did get back. I did explain it. You're not chosen, and then the past recreates itself again. And that's just how it works. It's all here. And you're revising all the time on who you're being. That's why you get hot and cold behavior, because life is always revising who you're being. One minute you're feeling confident in yourself, the next day you want to sleep in your bed and be depressed and don't talk to nobody. You're the one that's pushing that out. Okay, so be aware that life is revising on who you are being. And that's why it's always important, what we say as coaches, who are you being? If you're feeling sad, lonely, and depressed, you're gonna go outside and your reticular activating system will not even be able to pick up the things that you would see if you were in a different state of mind, right? So it's like, if I'm wearing Versace shades, let's just throw out examples, whatever. If I'm wearing Versace shades and they're dark tinted, that's how I see things until I take the shades off and then I put on another shade, my Gucci shades, and those are like regular glasses. That I see things out of those lenses differently. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Gucci, Versace. I put on my freaking Amazon glasses. It's like, that's how I'm gonna see things through those lenses until I take those lenses off and put on something else, and then I start seeing life through that way. And like I said, it's always gonna revise to who you're being, and that's why it's very important to understand who you are and what you're thinking in every moment, because what you do not see is the movement that's matching your new way of being. And I know it to be fact because when I was labeling myself depressed and all this stuff, I was seeing everybody else get what I want. I was seeing nothing really work at a speed that I wanted it to work. Until I started identifying as something else, and so I started identifying as a woman who has it all. Until I started identifying as, you know what, I'm tired of feeling like I have to put so much energy into getting somebody. Like, no, they'll put the energy into getting me. Until I started identifying as that, I didn't see any real changes. So I know it's about who you're being. And you can't blame anybody else but who you're being, what you're being. And then it's very important to be aware of that and take control of yourself. And that's why you're here, right? That's why you're watching these videos and you're investing in yourself and doing the right thing. And that's exactly what you want to do, because it's going to lead you directly to your desires. And if you're ever in the need of coaching, there's a link in the description box below. You can find out my availability, and Create Your Future also has a free course if you're interested in that. And I intend that this video has unlocked another level of understanding for you when it comes to manifesting. And until next time, see ya.